Among the many, many mitzvot in this week's Parsha, we have a paramount mitzvah of the Torah, which much of our lives are revolving around right now. And that is, Lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. Don't stand idly by the blood of your friend. If you're able to help the life of another person, we are obligated to do so. As we know, this mitzvah of the Torah has the power to push away just about any other mitzvah of the Torah. The Rambam formulates this imperative in a very strong and interesting way. Kisha'osim dvarim ha'elu, the Rambam says, when we violate, for example, the laws of Shabbat to save a life, ein osin otan lo al yidei goyim v'lo al yidei ktanim v'lo al yidei avadim v'lo al yidei nashim. The Rambam says, don't do life-saving acts which violate Shabbat through non-Jews or children or women or servants or any which way. Ella al yidei gedolei Yisrael v'chachamehem. The gedolei Yisrael should do these life-saving acts. V'asur lihitmameya b'chilul Shabbos l'chola sheyesh bo sakana. And it is forbidden to delay and to hesitate before trying to save someone in need. And the Rambam continues to say, She'ein mishpetei haTorah nikama ba'olam ela rachamim v'chesed v'shalom ba'olam. We should know that the laws of the Torah are merciful and kind and promote the preservation of life. This attitude is personified and exemplified in an anecdote that Rabbi Meir Twersky described in an essay this week, where he tells of a tradition that he has in his family that his grandfather, the Rav Yosef Dov Soloveitchik, was a baby, and while he was a baby, he became very sick, and the doctor came to examine him on Shabbos. During the examination, Rav Soloveitchik's grandfather, Reb Chaim Brisker, asked the doctor if he needed more light to see better. And the doctor said, no. Immediately, Reb Chaim instructed the person in the family closest to the fireplace to ignite the fire more strongly to provide more light. And the person standing there hesitated because the doctor seemed neutral about the need for more light. Reb Chaim criticized him and said, Du bist an amaretz und an apikoros. You're an ignoramus and a heretic. And Reb Simcha Zelig, who was also there close by, hastened to fulfill Reb Chaim's directive and adjusted the lights. And Reb Twersky reflected that this story is awesome and instructive, that he designated this person as an apikoros because even though he believed in all the mitzvahs of the Torah, including pikuach nefesh, but what does it mean to believe if you don't act appropriately according to its directions? I'd like to take just a moment to reflect on what might impede our zeal towards this mitzvah and value that seems so compelling. What would make someone hesitate in this anecdote and today? And I'd like to reflect on two things. The first is that when we think of a question like this, weighing the options of igniting the fire, violating Shabbos, and the value of helping preserve the life of a person, we might think of this conflict as the mitzvah, the Jewish religious ritual mitzvah, versus the universal, even secular value of health and of medicine. That it's religion, Judaism, versus the universal values. And I think that what the Rambam and Reb Chaim are both emphasizing is that this fundamental mistake must be overcome. When we violate a mitzvah for the sake of preserving a life, we are not being lenient, but we are being strict in the religious obligation of lo ta'amod al dam re'echa, not to stand idly when we can do something to make a difference. Just because life is a universal value does not mean that it's not also a religious value. It is a religious value. It is the paramount religious value. And the Rambam also formulates that a Kiddush Hashem means to project the image that we are kind and good and moral and ethical. The Rambam says that to Kiddush Hashem, when a Talmid Chacham is diburo benachas imabrios, v'da'ato mu'urevas imahen, that when he speaks nicely to people, b'sever mekablom b'sever panam yafos, mechabi lahen afilu l'meikilim lo, v'nosei v'notem be'amuna, that when we act with integrity and honesty, when we are polite and kind even to those who are not kind to us, that is a Kiddush Hashem. If the mitzvah of the Torah is consistent with the values of society, matov. If it's not, we're responsible to be committed nonetheless. But if it is consistent, we are also equally loyal and committed to this religious value. And therefore, we have to approach it not just as something we must do, but something that our religion demands. A second impediment is perhaps the fear that if a person violates too many rituals for the sake of preservation of life, then maybe we'll forget to do those mitzvahs. Maybe we won't want to go back to shul. Maybe we'll get so used to this mitzvah of davening at home that we won't want to go back to all the norms that we had before. It's kind of like a doctor who so frequently has to drive on Shabbos to save someone's life, and he's worried that people will think, or his children will think, or his neighbors will think, or he himself will think that the laws of Shabbos are not so important. And I think that the response to this, I would like to suggest, is twofold. First of all, it's what I just mentioned a second ago, that preservation of life is not a secular value, it is a religious value. And when we violate other rituals for the sake of preservation of life, we are doing a greater mitzvah. We are always doing mitzvahs, and we are not forsaking a single mitzvah. And the second thing I like to say is that we have to have emunah. Part of our responsibility of faith and loyalty to the Torah is to trust that it's in our best interest. Like Mishlei says, "Ein chachma ve'ein tvuna ve'ein eitzel leneged Hashem." Don't have any chachmos more than God's chachma. Follow God's chachma. If God says or communicates to us through the situation of our lives that now it's time to worship Him in a different way, we have to have faith that this will be for our best interest. We are in the midst of communally performing one of the greatest mitzvos of the Torah. V'chai bahem lo sa'amod al dam reyecha. We join in much of society that shares this value, and we should take pride in our ability to educate the world about this value of the value of life that we cherish so much, and hope to show how much we value it and educate our community and the world what an enormous value this is. We should have no fears, no hesitations when we fulfill this mitzvah, and have perfect faith that by our loyalty to this mitzvah, we will ensure our physical and spiritual health for ourselves and for all around us.